Hello and welcome JBA fans, I'm your host KingL5 and today I am bringing you my Season 4 JBA draft analysis. And honestly, this is probably my favorite draft of all time. And it all started with this idea of getting Mega Sharpedo because I've always wanted to try that thing in League format. You know, since it doesn't have the speed boost option because you have to Mega first turn, this thing's actually a tier 4 Mega, which means I have lots of points. And honestly, this is such a great draft. I just love it. So going into this, I knew I wanted Sharpedo and Infernape to form my basic offensive core, and then I kind of built around those things. Yeah, I only got sniped once the entire draft, so that's pretty cool. But that one snipe was, I got sniped my initial pick and my backup, so had to go with a third choice, but it's still pretty good. So I knew I wanted Sharpedo and Infernape, but I didn't think that either of them was going to go round 1, especially Sharpedo. So I wanted to find something that's round 1 material and really helps out this core. And the best thing that comes to mind is Latios. So assuming that I'm getting Infernape and Sharpedo in the draft, I wanted to finish off my Fighting Psychic Dark core, and Latios is just a wonderful Pokemon to do that with. It has so many wonderful resists. It's a ground immunity, it's electric resist, fighting resist, fire resist, water resist, all these important typings, and it's just such a good Pokemon in general. This was on my Season 2 draft, which I was able to get the championship with. And I just really like this Pokemon in general. Really solid stats around the board. And 110 speed is a really nice speed tier to hit. The Spadef is nice, and special attack is like the main thing why you use Latios, especially compared to Latios. It just hits really hard. This thing's move pool is like amazing, as you guys all know. Gets so many moves. One thing that's really important for a draft is Defog as a form of hazard removal. I have both Defog and Rapid Spin on this draft, but Latios being a potential defogger is really nice. It can definitely defog on, say, a more offensive build. So yeah, just really nice Pokemon in general. And next I'm going to move on to Infernape. Now Infernape is a Pokemon that initially I didn't like very much in League. I thought it was overpriced as a tier 1, but I had it in the DBDL, and it really put in a lot of work, and I really enjoyed using it, so I decided to draft it for this league, and I got it round 2, and I did actually make this my Z Pokemon. So for the JBA, after draft, you can select one Pokemon on your team that can use Z moves. The only things that are banned are the Ancient Power Boosts and Evasion, but Infernape is just an incredibly versatile mon. It can basically do any offensive set. It can be a Sash lead with Stealth Rock Taunt. It can do so many things. It can Swords Dance, Nasty Plot, all sorts of things. And yeah, it just gets amazing coverage, nice gunk shot to hit those fairies, and just firefighting is really good stabs, nice and spammable. Yeah, it's just a really nice Pokemon in general. The stats are kind of like pretty good. 108 speed, pretty good, kind of close to Latios, so it's not like the most diverse speed tiering in the world, but it's pretty nice in its own regard. 104 offenses is really nice. I can hit special or physical and do tons of damage. And the reason I made this my Z Pokemon is because, well, given this thing's amazing moveset, and if you're able to power up a coverage move or just have a really hard hitting stab move like Inferno Overdrive, this thing doesn't really have counters. Like, there are no 100% counters to this Pokemon pretty much in the entire Draft League format, apart from maybe, I don't know, a Scarf Psychic type that can take a Z Shadow Claw, for example. I have no idea. But like, technically there's very little that can completely wall a Z move Infernape, so that just gives me even more leeway to be creative with this thing, and I think I can just bring some nice surprise sets, get some surprise KOs, and then just have that momentum for the rest of the game, potentially. But yeah, really nice Pokemon. So next up, I decided to go for Nidoqueen as my round 3 pick. I definitely wanted to use Nidoqueen this season. I wanted to use it last season as well, but it got sniped. And then Nidoking also got sniped, so I definitely wanted a Nido, and Queen was my first choice, just because, well, Nidoking is a little bit nicer offensively. Nidoqueen is basically just as strong. Basically, Nidoking, you're going to run Timid most of the time, and on Nidoqueen you're going to run Modest, so I believe Nidoqueen actually hits a little bit harder, if I'm not mistaken. But this thing also has many options to run a bulky set, and it's amazing typing. Poison Ground gives us a lot of resistances, and it's just really nice to have on my team. This is a hazard setter, can set up the Toxic Spikes. Stealth Rock gets amazing coverage, as you guys know. Fire, Flamethrower, and Ice Beam, and all that stuff is just amazing. And you get the Unstab Outrage coverage, so like, I mean, it's a wonderful Pokemon. Sheer Force makes this thing hit like a truck. Even with the 75 special attack, it's still stupidly strong. Poison Point is nice on defensive sets, you can just have some residual. And yeah, it's just a really nice Pokemon in general. I really wanted a bulky ground on my team to take on electric types, as I know Latios can also take on electric types, but I might not want to run a Roost variant or like something bulky. I can just run Specs or something on this, and then a defensive Nidoqueen to check the electric types, for example. Anyways, that's pretty much it for this Pokemon. Moving on is a Pokemon I really wanted to try out in draft, and I've never gotten the chance, and that's Ferrothorn. This Pokemon is a really good user of berries, like Akaberry and Choppleberry are the two ones, because it's not weak to anything else, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, you can basically take a Hidden Power Fire from anything, or even a Fire Blast even. Excuse me. But this Pokemon is really nice hazard stacking for my offensive Pokemon. Latios, Infernape, Sharpedo, Mega Edition, and Swellow later on, we'll get into that. These are all Pokemon that really appreciate Spike support as well as Stealth Rocks, because, I mean, they are very strong, and that extra chip damage can help secure KOs and all that stuff, so Stealth Rock Spikes are things that this Pokemon gets. Gyro Ball is a really nice hard-hitting stab move, Power Whip is nice, and it's just really a nice defensive pivot that I can use to like switch into things on my offensive teams, and then just get up hazards, which is very, very nice. So the Grass Steel typing is very important. I wanted a bulky Steel. I knew that going in. Every draft should have a bulky Steel in my opinion. It's really not something you can just pass up. And I also wanted a Grass type, and Grass Steel. There's both of them. And I do get another Grass type over here in Serena, but that's kind of a different role. That's hazard removal, and I also just wanted to use it. And yeah, so Ferrothorn, that's pretty much it. Iron Barbs is nice. And yeah, moving on to the next Pokemon. This is actually my third pick. Originally I really wanted to use Jellicent because it just looked so cool on my team to have Jellicent, and I really wanted to use it, but unfortunately that got taken, and I was like, alright, that's okay, I can just go for Vaporeon. Nope. Taken, I think, 2 picks before me, something like that. But I settled for Slowking. Now this Pokemon is actually, I'm really happy with it. Even though it wasn't what I initially wanted, the bulky water psychic type gives it a lot of nice resistances, not too many weaknesses. I mean, electric, grass, dark, ghost, and bug. Is there anything else that I'm missing? I don't think so. But yeah, just really nice bulky Pokemon. Look at these stats. It's basically Slowbro, but you swap the defense and special defense and you make it look cooler. So that's pretty cool. Unfortunately, it's not quite as good as a Calm Minesweeper as Slowbro because it doesn't have the higher defense stat, but Regenerator is a really nice ability, just in general. I used Alomomola in Season 2 and Season 3, and Regenerator is always nice to have on a bulky water especially, because you can just come and take those hits from a potential fire type that's threatening your team, especially with Ferrothorn, and then you can just regenerate it off not even losing any momentum by having to go for a slack off or wish, for example. In this situation it would be a slack off. But yeah, this Pokemon is a great Assault Vest user. It's a great setup sweeper. You can go Trick Room, Nasty Plot, got a lot of options here. Really nice Pokemon, hits pretty hard as well with the 100 special attack. Definitely not a weak Pokemon. And yeah, so moving on. I knew I definitely wanted a Fairy type on my team, and I really wanted to use Granbull. So I did. I drafted Granbull round 6, and the Intimidate just makes this thing a defensive monster. Pure Fairy typing is one of the best typings in the game, behind Fairy Steel, and I guess Psychic Steel is also really good, but Fairy is just right up there. Very good. Very few weaknesses with a lot of resistances. This thing is usually going to be leftovers defensive unless I want to go for an offensive set. Choice Band is very good on this thing with the base 120 attack and access to lots of strong physical moves like Play Rough, Close Combat, Earthquake. Got Fire coverage in there as well. Ice Fang, Ice Punch. Got a really nice moveset here. Super Fang is also a nice option. Toxic, and this thing also gives me a Cleric with Heal Bell. So this thing just fulfilled a lot of roles, and I really wanted to go for a more offensive approach this season, so I wanted to have a Fairy type that can actually hit back, and Granbull definitely fits the bill. Very strong Pokemon, and has coverage for basically any Mon in the format. This thing gets like 2 abilities, mostly going to be Intimidate, but Quick Feet can also be an option. Rattled, not so much. I don't really like Rattled at all, but Quick Feet is interesting if I want to run Toxic Orb, and then I'm basically Scarf all the time, but base 45 speed isn't doing it any favors, so probably going to stick with Intimidate most of the time, unless I'm feeling particularly heat. But yeah, Granbull, nice Pokemon. I really wanted to use it, so I drafted it. Next up is the king himself, Mega Sharpedo. This thing, unfortunately I'm not able to use Speed Boost because Mega first turn, but this thing is Agility, so like basically Speed Boost, am I right? And it's not like this thing can't hit faster things, because it does have Aqua Jet. Crunch hits basically just as hard as a Mega Swampert's Waterfall in Rain. That's how strong this thing is. Strong Jaw basically gives it a 1.5 boost on top of Stab, so it just hits incredibly hard, and Dark Spam is, well, Dark in general is just very easy spammable typing for an attack. This thing can also go mixed with Hydro Pump if my opponent has, say, Avalugg the God and would just wall me otherwise. I'm not saying anyone drafted Avalugg, but like, I'm just thinking of an example. Sorry. But Super Fang, okay, I think it would be really cool if Strong Jaw boosted Super Fang to do 75%. That would be incredibly broken, and Sharpedo would be banned, but that would be amazing. Unfortunately, that's not how it is. One thing that kind of motivated me to draft this thing is this new move, Psychic Fangs. The fact that this thing gets even more coverage means that it's just that much better. And I think Mega Sharpedo, even without Speed Boost, is still a really good Pokemon. Like in general, it's just a solid mon. So I really wanted to use it before that, and then it got more coverage and I was like, oh hell yeah. So this thing is actually kind of bulky. I guess bulky isn't the right word, but it can take a hit. Basically any hit that isn't super effective, and even then if it's a weaker hit, this thing can tank 1. And yeah, just really nice Pokemon, really wanted to use it. And yeah, moving on to a bird, Swellow. So I have this in another league. I think it's the EDL that I have this in. Might have this in 2 leagues. Regardless, this Pokemon is just an offensive powerhouse. You look at these stats and you may not think so, but this thing, its moveset, it's basically like Victini, where Victini doesn't have the highest attack stat, but it has that base 180 V-Create. This doesn't have the highest attacking stats, but it has Facade at 140 base power, Brave Bird 120, Boom Burst 140. It just has really high base powered moves, so it hits really hard. Scrappy Boom Burst is really nice to have. It means some teams don't even have a normal resist, or if they do, it's their Steel type, and that's easily pressured by Latios and Granbull and Aegis gets worn down, and then Swellow can come in. This thing gets Heat Wave if you're worried about Steel types. But yeah, this thing also gives me a backup defogger if I need one, for example. This thing also gets Baton Pass, probably won't be using that, mostly Burn Orb or Specs, or some combination of offensive item with offensive moveset. Yeah, Tailwind is not really useful, it's a gimmick at best. U-Turn, nice for momentum, and Toxic can help nail switch-ins, although mostly it'll be Steel switching in. Sometimes you're going to be able to catch something else. So really fast Pokemon, 125 speed is really nice. I can run Modest versus some teams, which is always appreciated, especially with Boom Burst, and just boosting the power on that even more is just great. And yeah, really solid Pokemon in general, I really like using it. And yeah, moving on to the next Pokemon, I decided to get Normal Rotom. Now this is because it gives me a spin blocker, because obviously I'm trying to hazard stack with Nidoqueen and Ferrothorn, so I would definitely want to keep my hazards up if I can, and if my opponent has like a Komala, for example, I can just run Rotom and block that rapid spin, and basically they're forced to like Shadow Claw on the switch in, and then I still have my hazards up and I can go into Sharpedo, which OHKOs, Komala, like any variant, I'm pretty sure, or Infernape even. But yeah, really nice spin blocker. I can prevent spins and then just keep my hazards up. Really nice Pokemon. This is a really good Choice Scarf user or a Life Orb user. Most other sets I feel aren't too good. I guess Sub Split with Leftovers if I want to be like Toxic Sub, Pain Split, and Protect or something like that, or an offensive move. Yeah, this thing gets dual screens. Basically it's all the moves of any Rotom form besides the signature one, like Hydro Pump, Overheat, all that stuff. And yeah, nice Will-O-Wisp user as well. Trick Scarf is good to force walls to have a Scarf. That's always nice for my other offensive threats that might not be able to break through a particularly fat wall. But yeah, Levitate is a good ability. Gives me another ground resist. I now have 3 of those, so that's really good. Mold Breaker does kind of nullify this and Latios, but then I still have Swellow, which isn't the worst thing in the world, and then Ferrothorn and Granbull can usually take any Earthquakes that they need to. Not to mention this Pokemon over here that I'll get into in a second. But Rotom is just really cool, I wanted to use it. Shadow Ball, Volt Switch, just all that cool stuff. And yeah, cool Pokemon. Moving on to my only Gen 7 Pokemon of the draft, and that's going to be Serena. I really wanted to use this thing as a rapid spinner and just a nice grass type in general. 120 attack, same as Granbull, which means it can hit pretty hard, fitting in with the offensive nature of my team. 72 speed is fast enough where a Choice Scarf set is viable. 98 defenses is good enough where a defensive set is viable with Synthesis. And this thing also gets Queenly Majesty, which blocks priority, so this thing can't get revenged by E-Speed or anything like that. And yeah, just really nice Pokemon. Rapid Spin is the main reason I got it, but also just it's a cool Pokemon. U-Turn can help keep momentum, can Toxic. I can High Jump Kick and Trop Kick for that. Aromatherapy gives me another Cleric with Granbull, and a really nice addition to the team. It doesn't have a fighting weakness like Ferrothorn, so this will wall some things that Ferrothorn can't, like for example Keldeo, although I have Slowking for that, just an example. Ferrothorn can't beat Keldeo without a Chople Berry, Serena can. So just nice double grass there. I really wanted to use both Pokemon and I was like, well, why not? And yeah, that's pretty much it for this Pokemon. Moving on to my last pick, which is going to be Golem. This Pokemon is just kind of, I wanted a rock type and I needed a tier 6, so Golem. That's basically it. This thing can do some really cool things with a sturdy Stealth Rock lead if I want to go that route, and then like, I know Custap Berry is technically banned in Gen 7 because it's not released, but I don't know if that's allowed in this league or not. I'm going to have to ask Jade about that, but sturdy Custap Berry could be a set. Lumberry is not going to be useful very much, but I just felt like saying Lumberry because I saw it right there. Very tantalizing. But another set that I really want to try at least once during the season is Weakness Policy Rock Polish. I think that can definitely catch some people off guard, and they'll just slap on Hidden Power Grass to hit this thing, for example, and then I live it with Sturdy, get my Weakness Policy, Rock Polish up, and then just proceed to do heavy damage to their team with a 120 attack and stab Edgequake. So that can definitely be an option, and generally I really like this as my tier 6 pick. It can do a lot of things, and it's just a nice addition to the team. It also gives me a nice bird check, as I don't really have the best of flying resist on my team at all. I have Rotom, and that's basically it. Granbull, I guess, and Ferrothorn can count as pseudo flying checks, but not really. So these two are going to be my resists, and Golem going to be the main defensive answer to flying types. But yeah, that's basically going to be my entire draft. I'm really happy with it, and well, our week 1 matchup is against Matt, and bringing some spicy sets, so definitely watch out for that video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.